Better pull us over here, it's a little closer. Can anybody hear me? Okay. Welcome to the Mill Creek Township Planning, or Municipal Building and the Monthly Planning Commission meeting. This time I call the meeting of May 2nd, 2023 to order. All please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you haven't already done so, please sign the attendance sheet back there for the record. Next, I'd like to introduce the Planning Commission and our support staff. Starting on my far left is Ray Reed. Next to him is Doug Prozan. Next to him is Scott Stewart. Right here, Pete Cabea. My far right, the far end down there is Denise Bizarro, the recording secretary. Next to her is Dave Skelly, Tony Sitter, and our newest member, Dave Fugate. Fugate. I'll get it right one day.
Italian Fugate.
That's right. In the back on the right there is Julie Maggio and Matt Puz. They are the director and assistant director of the zoning and development officers. And on the my left back here in the back is Jennifer Hernandez in the Township Council. Next to her is Matt Waldinger, the Director of Planning and Development. Before we begin, I will call for a motion to accept the minutes of last month's meeting as written.
Motion to accept.
Second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. The subdivision and our land development discussed tonight, if acted on by the Planning Commission, will be considered by the Township Supervisors at their regular meeting to be held on Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at 5 p.m. in the Township Building. The Planning Commission is a recommending body that hears testimony, asks and answers questions, deliberates and passes our recommendations on to the supervisors who make the final decisions on issues brought before us. First item on the agenda tonight is a subdivision plan number 2 for Robert Sessler. It's a subdivision plan to show the creation of a .356 acre parcel B from 4058 West Ridge Road to become an integral part of 4042 West Ridge Road, creating a .805 acre lot with a residual lot of .236 acres along the north side of West Ridge Road, west of Colonial Avenue, in tract 309. Sir.
Good evening, Mike Sanford, 4721 Atlantic Avenue. I'm the surveyor that made the plan here. Essentially, the Sesslers have owned 2 tax lots side by side, and they'd like to do what we would call a side lot addition. Make one a little smaller, make one a little larger. The reason to make the one a little larger is on your agenda in a few items. They would like to do a land development. So essentially, there's no new lot being created, just a side lot addition.
Just lot size.
Yes.
All right. Anybody have any questions for him?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is land development plan for
Mr.
EJ's
Chairman?
Huh?
Any
I'm sorry.
comment?
Anyone have any comments from the audience about that? Okay. Next is the land development plan for BJ's Restaurant and Brew House. It's a land development plan to show construction of a 7,662 square foot eating and drinking establishment located at the Mill Creek Mall with associated stormwater management facilities and off-street parking along the west line of Peach Street south of Kuntz Road in tract 347. Please give us your name and address.
Good evening. Michael Takas with Bowler Engineering, 1 Allegheny Square, Suite 402, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania,
All right, thank you.
15212.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to talk about the proposed redevelopment at the Mill Creek Mall for a BJ's Restaurant and Brew Pub. The location, and the next plan is going to be a little sketchy, but we'll go with it. The location is basically the completion of the Sears Automotive, where the former Sears Automotive was. As you know, that building was demolished. The Sonic was built kind of on one half. This is going to take the place of the remaining section. So there's still a slab there. All the asphalt is still there. Infrastructure is still there. So we're looking to basically take and modify the balance of that area. Just for reference, and again, the plan is very busy. The former Sears was here. Sonic is out here. This is Peach Street, entrance to the mall in this location. And the proposed lot is this area here. It will be a leasehold, so it is not we're not subdividing. The Mill Creek Mall owner, Cafaro, has a representative here tonight in case any questions come up, as well as Joan Legay from BJ's. So as mentioned, the project project is looking at a redevelopment of this space. Construction of the restaurant itself is located in the center of the parcel. We have one access point that is shared with the Sonic up in this area. And then we have, of course, an interior circulation. Main entrance will be out here to the front. There will be an outdoor seating patio in this area as well. And then we've, of course, redone all the pavement, parking, new landscape islands, landscape being installed. In addition to kind of what you see on the surface, underground, we also are doing underground stormwater detention to satisfy the ordinance requirements. The system we're using is a series of underground chambers to basically hold, and infiltration will happen, even though the infiltration tests say that there's no infiltration out there on site. Water always tends to find a way, but the volume we can manage in that system, which is basically located under the pavement up in this area here. We will have a connection to the water system, fire suppression, and then of course we'll be making a connection to the sanitary sewer, which is out, I believe, in the front portion of this site. As you know, this site does sit down below Peach Street, so and it sits down, and then there are a bunch of easements that are out here in the front. So we are proposing landscaping, but it's really pulled out of all those easements because we're not allowed to put any of that landscaping in that green space. So our buffering is kind of down near the bottom portion of the site itself. Other elements, we do have, I'll swing over here, I'll talk loud so the microphone can still pick me up. We do have a service yard here in the back. There is a screen wall along the side of it as well as the doors here. So this is where, basically loading takes place. The vehicles will pull up in here and unload into the restaurant itself. And then it really kind of creates a nice screen back of house area for the restaurant itself. That's generally the site plan. I do have some other images. This shows the architectural character of the building, a lot of masonry. It's a very aesthetic building, basically on all sides. BJ's also includes these murals on their restaurants as well. You see murals here. One other element that isn't on the rendering, on this rendering, is the inclusion of a new element that they're putting into their restaurants, and it's a silo to basically, it's not actually functional, but it plays on the brewing heritage of the restaurant itself. I do have an image, kind of a typical here. Give me 1 second. So this element is located kind of at the corner. This would be the backside facing the mall. But again, it's just an architectural element. It's not actually functioning as a working silo. But it really kind of, again, adds to the overall architecture, adds to the theme of the restaurant, and pleasing element, it's not anything in a negative sense.
I like it, yeah.
They got one of them up at, Peach Street over.
So-
in front of,
Furman's.
no, there's one, near one like that, shoe store, shoe fly. There one in there too?
So I can answer any questions that you may have, or I know there were a couple elements that were brought up by township staff that we could address,
Okay,
whichever way you'd like to go.
one question I have,
Mhm.
when you had the picture up there, the 4 sides of the building,
Yes.
can you go back to that once?
Yep. I should have said maybe instead of yes.
You got it.
Okay, yes.
Okay, which, I can't read it from here, which is the front
So
entrance,
this
front,
is the front,
front, and that's facing Peach Street?
that's facing Beach Street,
Okay,
correct.
all right,
And then you have your rear facing the mall,
right,
and then left, this elevation should be facing the entrance into the mall. And then this is facing the BJ's. Not BJ's, Sonic. Sonic.
okay, all right. And all access to this place is from the mall parking lot?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay, you had a couple of issues, well, buffer C, which is the, what you've already discussed, I believe, with the buffer zone along Peach Street, that you do not have access to the hill there because of the...
Correct. So we've pulled it down as far as we can
Pull
get
it down as
So
far as
there's-
you can get it,
There is
yes.
screening, and we are putting trees. We are trying to cluster them together a little bit, because I know the ordinance has changed, but we'll be the only people in that corridor that has any trees in front of them. And we also have a lot of trees that are going down the mall access drive that are big and mature. So we're trying to cluster them so we have view sheds in, but we can't kind of meet that intent of a true street tree presence because we just don't have access to the ground
Okay.
because of the easements that are in place.
And you need to show the location and distance of the nearest fire hydrant.
Correct, and it's on the opposite side of
Yeah.
the Sonic. There's a hydrant on that
Okay.
side. Obviously, the big water tower is right there, the fire
Yeah,
hydrant.
there is, yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
so we'll have that identified as well.
Okay. All right. Parking spaces. Have you discussed that with anybody here yet?
We have. So the ordinance has a maximum and a minimum parking space number.
77 and 95, 92.
92. So we have currently 109 spaces inside the lease area itself for this restaurant. From BJ's standpoint, from an operational standpoint, they see restaurants that actually need up to 150 spaces operating on a regular basis. However, we do have extra parking available that they're comfortable with from an operations standpoint in the rest of the mall. However, those spaces aren't really the most conducive to the restaurant operation. So we are still requesting the 109 spaces. We are going to be submitting for a zoning variance to allow that to happen. I believe the intent of the ordinance is to reduce impervious where it's not necessary. So you don't have just seas of parking and a lot of extra stormwater. What I would say on this site, and you really can't see it because we've actually pulled this back some. So the edge of the parking isn't where the edge of the parking is now. We still have the number of spaces, but we're reducing impervious coverage on this site significantly. If you took the impervious coverage of the loss of those 17 spaces, we actually far exceed that reduction with all of the landscape work and the impervious reduction we're already doing. From our standpoint, we know it's still a variance, we know we're still asking for a deviation from what the code says, but we think we're still generally meeting the intent, which is to not put more impervious down on the ground than what's necessary. This site being a redevelopment also, it's 100% impervious right now inside that lease area. So obviously, we're not asking you to necessarily weigh in on that unless Planning Commission can make a recommendation that we could take to the zoning hearing board. If not, we understand that may not be how you guys would like to operate that, but we are making that application, and we think we have a very solid case in this circumstance to grant that variance.
Do you know what the percentage open space is? Because we have a 7% requirement, I don't know if that was referred to.
No,
Anything over, new development over half an acre, requirement is 7% green space, which would include all your plantings,
yeah, I don't,
end caps and.
let's see, maximum lot coverage, we're way under on the lot coverage for buildings and structures, but I don't have the open space percentage. I don't have that calced out. You say it's 7%?
Yeah, minimum is that.
Yeah, I know our reduction total is 12%, so we're reducing overall impervious on the site by 12%, so I'm certain we meet that requirement.
Well, it may be getting better, but it's still supposed to be 7% based on your.
Sure, I guess my point is that if we're actually at 12% reduction, we should be, I think we should, yes. Yep. Okay. I don't, yeah, it wasn't something that we talked about, but we'll take a look at it. I'm fairly confident. I mean, in most cases, you saw the kind of the character of the restaurant. Landscaping is an important component here of BJ's identity as well. You know, I don't think we're going to have a challenge with that. Because I don't think, so right now, this is all hardscape back here. So this entire area is all being changed to landscape area. So it's that area alone is a significant reduction over what's there today. In addition to all the islands and the landscaping that we have, everything that's around the building. Plus the reduction up here, I think we'll be fine. Yep.
Have it calculated and let the township.
Will do.
Dave, you mentioned sidewalk, but anything else?
The other item, question would be sidewalk along Peach Street. I know you got a creek in the middle there. And I know the property isn't owned by you, you're leasing it.
Correct.
Because what's the elevation difference between the lot and Peach Street? That's what I'm trying to remember how big that hill is there.
Probably 15 feet.
Is it 15?
I would think it'd be at least that, yeah.
It's at least 10 to 15 feet, I would think, at its highest.
But we could get a public walk down there along Peach Street.
Yes, isn't the like the easement stuff? They can't put the landscaping in there because he just said it's easement.
Well, you can still get a public walk.
So
But still put side.
so there are a couple things. There are multiple easements there, and then you also wind up, you know, the plan's not going to accurately show it, but this dark line is the property line, and property line / right-of-way line, right? So anything out on this side of it is going to be in the right-of-way, and I believe Peach is a PennDOT road, correct? So, you know, again, depending upon that disposition, you know, you also have the additional aspect of having to permit it through the state highway, and they're not usually a big fan of sidewalks anyways, but it has to kind of go somewhere.
They don't like people walking?
Not in their right-of-way. Not in their
Okay.
right-of-way.
Walk on the
There's
street.
two things they don't like. They don't like sidewalk, and they don't like stormwater structures that they have to maintain.
Well, they had a big issue just across the street some years ago.
Okay.
Where somebody directed people being killed because there was no sidewalk.
Okay.
So we may want a sidewalk. The township may want a sidewalk.
But does that run with,
Whatever the engineering regs are.
doesn't that run with Cafaro more so than,
Probably, the owner of the property. But it's a new development, so I don't know how that, at least new development impacts the sidewalk.
So if you get a deferment, if you apply for, you get a deferment on it, you're fine.
Yeah, a sidewalk deferral would, again, defer the sidewalk until either the sidewalk was required by either PennDOT, the township, or some sort of court order.
Has there been any discussion before this came up about putting a sidewalk up there?
Not to my knowledge.
Well, then I don't see why you would need it now. If it hasn't come up.
I think it should be researched.
I think so too.
Somebody did get killed right across the street because there was no
I
public
know,
walks.
but if it hasn't risen to the top of their department in the past, why?
So,
why
May have been overlooked.
my sense as kind of a new, fresh set of eyes that has not always a lot of knowledge, but we could look at it from the state highway perspective, we don't want sidewalks. However, that's such a commercial area. If we were going to do it in retrospect, I think we would put sidewalks in because it would help the flow, it would help safety. Now, I know Mill Creek in the past has gone from, when I was growing up here, no sidewalks almost anywhere, to the point is sometimes we put sidewalks in where they weren't connected to anything. And so I think we're kind of that middle ground now of trying to find a spot if redevelopment takes place and if sidewalks kind of come along the point to have something in there that, that there would be that possibility to say, yes, maybe the owners would need to put in sidewalks at some point, not now to put a sidewalk to nowhere. But I think it is a safety issue, and from my perspective, maybe, my sense is to maybe say to the supervisor something to consider for future as we redevelop the site, that sidewalks, if they come up in other areas along Peach Street there, adjacent to this property, where it would be mandated. Because again, it's always the challenge, we're going after the fact,
Right.
if we're doing it now, but who knows where we are 10, 20 years from now.
Did this even come up with Sonic?
Don't believe so.
Well, I would also point out that most of the pedestrian traffic is on the east side where the apartments and everything are on the east side of Beach Street. But since there's a vehicle for deferring this, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't. If it comes up and it's necessary in the future, then Cafaro would be forced to put it in there, not you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be, I think there are some limitations to sidewalk on that side anyways. The bridge is
Yeah,
obviously the
that bridge
biggest
is
one.
right there, and I don't know how that would work.
Because there's-
the
I don't
road
think
is
there's-
right up to the edge of the bridge.
Yeah, I don't think there's room on the bridge, so, again, if you really think far out, right, I mean, PennDOT could replace the bridge and make a pedestrian accommodation, and then that would open all of that up, but if they're opening that up for pedestrian purposes, or they're including that, they're probably going to also put a sidewalk in the right-of-way, because they've already made that consideration. I think the problem here is that you wind up, the way it falls, by the time you get out of their right-of-way, you're halfway down the slope.
If you fall off the sidewalk, you're in trouble.
Again, not that it can't happen, but it's just, you really, it's a lot further away than what I think you would want it to be in that area, if you tried to keep it out of the PennDOT right-of-way. And PennDOT does, I mean, there are cases where they'll see an issue with pedestrian safety or pedestrian circulation in an area that is growing and more population, more pedestrians, where they do implement projects like that, but there'd be a lot of work. The bridge, I think, is the real stopper on this side, on this section, for sure. I don't know if is there room on the bridge on the other side?
There is.
On the east side? So there is a sidewalk over
Yeah,
there?
there is a
Okay.
sidewalk.
Now, yeah.
Which they just renovated.
Okay.
They just put it in, it wasn't there originally.
There are sidewalks down the access road to the mall.
Justin? No, there's nothing currently.
Okay.
On either side, correct?
Okay. I couldn't remember whether, I don't go to the mall very much. Okay, any other questions or comments for him?
Well, I'd like to make a comment. I was recently up at a BJ's outside of Cleveland. I went up and I think it's Mentor. And sure looks like it'd be an asset to our community.
We think so.
Doesn't have a silo up there.
No silos in Pittsburgh?
You know,
Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland.
There's not any in the Pittsburgh one either,
All
so.
right, we're the first?
Well, Joan, what's,
All right, let's get her going. Screw the sidewalk.
I think the silo on the other one was a more operating one, back whenever they actually used them. The new one is going to be similar, but non-operable, so.
I have a comment about the sidewalks. If you do have to limit down to 92 spaces, Erie's used to having to park across the street. There are many restaurants in Erie where there's not enough parking, and they will park in the Bonton parking lot, or the Los Cal parking lot, and walk across. That will not be an issue to your business. They will do that.
Except in January.
Follow that.
I have one comment, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to compliment you for supplying the artist rendition of the physical building. We don't always see that. It did give us a good visual of what's happening with that piece of property. Also, for your architectural design, I also want to compliment you for making your facade, your front entrance facing Peachtree. I think that's a real plus for that area, and it'll be a plus for your business. So I just wanted to put that on there.
Thank you.
It was nice that you had your cousin.
I think these guys are shooting for coupons over here.
Okay, does anyone else here have any questions for him or us about this? Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see here. The next item on the agenda here is for land development plan.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
anybody else, any other comments on,
What?
Any other comments?
I did ask, didn't I?
I don't think so.
I did ask,
It
yes.
starts to get old.
from the audience? Did-
Sorry, I missed that. That was me.
Okay. Let's see here, where was I? Land development plan for West Ridge Estates Phase 2. It's a land development plan to show the construction of 2 5-unit apartment buildings at 4042 West Ridge Road with associated stormwater management facilities and off-street parking along the north line of West Ridge Road, west of Colonial Avenue, and track 309.
Good evening, Mike Sanford, 4721 Atlantic Avenue. Earlier on your agenda, we did a side lot addition to make this parcel a little larger. There is an existing single-family home on the parcel, and the developers would like to construct 2 5-unit buildings on the property. It meets the density requirements, so there would be a total of 11 units on this property, the single-family home and then 2 5-units. So it does, we will have a new driveway from PennDOT. We've already submitted that, and that's been approved. Of course, we've submitted our stormwater calculations to the township consulting engineer. Those are under review. Certainly it'll be served by public sewer and public water. And we have all the appropriate landscaping, both buffer B and buffer C. Our plan has no modifications or variances required. We do show the sidewalk on the plan along West Ridge Road, but we are seeking deferral, and that agreement's been provided, and I sent that on to the developer for him to sign and return. So, just here tonight to present our plan, and if you have any questions, we can answer them.
This is all contingent on the other one being approved.
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, any questions for him?
No?
Any comments?
You
Anyone?
don't have
from
any pictures, huh?
No pictures. It's gonna look like an apartment building.
Any? Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Sanford, once again. All right, the fourth and last item on the agenda for the night is a land development plan to show the construction of a 10,640 square foot retail business establishment with associated stormwater management facilities and off-street parking along the south line of West 38th Street at the intersection of Atlantic Avenue and track 376.
This is for a proposed Dollar General. There's one out parcel remaining along West 38th Street. This would be a Dollar General. There is no new driveway to 38th Street. The developer, we redrew it, they'll be using the existing Plaza driveway as the driveway. So you'd come off 38th Street onto the Plaza driveway and then enter the Dollar General. There is a considerable amount of grade fall on this property from south to north, so there are 2 retaining walls proposed on the northerly side and the easterly side. All the zoning is the same, but there is a requirement of buffer Cs along the frontage and sidelines, those are shown. And again, we submitted our stormwater calculations to the consulting engineer, those are under review. So we're here tonight to ask any, or answer any questions. We don't have any variances or modifications on this plan as well. We did also seek sidewalk deferral along 38th Street, and that agreement was provided to us as well. So we're here tonight to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone? Questions, comments?
Do you happen to know how much, what the percentage of open space is?
What I can tell you is the parking lot is 0.4 acres. Oh, you did it? Okay.
I figured that the lot size is 43520, so you're under an acre.
The lot's under an acre. The parking lot is 0.4 acres, so it's under the 0.5. Therefore, we're not required to provide the 7%, but we do have the perimeter green spaces and all the end caps and plantings as well. But we did fall under the 0.5 requirement to demonstrate 7%.
Okay, any other questions or comments? How about anyone from the audience care to speak about this?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, no comments on anything here. We will get ourselves together here and go through these one more time and give our recommendation to the supervisors. Ready? Okay, back to plan, the first item on the agenda is subdivision plan for Robert Sessler. It's a subdivision plan to show the creation of a .356 acre parcel B from 4058 West Ridge Road, become a integral part of 4042 West Ridge Road, creating an 0.805 acre lot with residual lot of .236 along the north line of West Ridge Road, west of Colonial Avenue in tract 309. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Second item is the land development plan for BJ's Restaurant and Brew House. It's a land development plan to show the construction of a 7,662 square foot eating and drinking establishment located at the Mill Creek Mall with associated stormwater management facilities and off-street parking along the west line of Peach Street, south of Kuntz Road in tract 347.
Motion for approval, with the condition that you meet the 7% green space requirement. Yeah, we have. And that the township look into the Beach Street sidewalk issue, determine if the township wants a sidewalk.
I'll second that.
Okay, now what about when the fire hydrant is shown and so on and so forth too? But what about the parking spaces?
Something you want to amend my motion? That's to agree to reduce the number of parking spaces to 109?
No, to maximum 92. To maximum 92.
We'll add language to resolve the parking space requirement.
That's what they're gonna go for, I think, yeah.
They did apply for a variance for that, to have a additional parking spaces, and they have reduced their hardscape. I mean, once the building is started, the hardscape up there already is
Yeah.
way bigger than their footprint that they're gonna take, so.
I don't think you need to address the parking.
Okay, all right. So we'll go back to the original, to the,
Unutilized parking requirement.
Remember Silo?
That was our second, yeah.
okay, now, do you wanna restate your,
Make a motion for approval, contingent upon the meeting of 7% green space requirement and 3 certified
seconded, okay. Any further discussion on it from anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you again. The third item is a land development plan to show the construction of 2 5-unit apartment buildings at 4042 West Ridge Road with associated stormwater management facilities and off-street parking along the north line of West Ridge Road, west of Colonial Avenue and track 309.
Make a motion to
Anyone?
approve?
I'll second.
Seconded by Doug Prozan. Any further discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you very much. And the last item is the land development plan for Dollar General to show the construction of a 10,640 square foot retail business establishment, excuse me, with associated stormwater management facilities and off-street parking along the south line of West 38th Street at the intersection of Atlantic Avenue and Track 76.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. We have a second for the motion.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Do we have any other business to discuss tonight, sir?
No, I do not.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We stand adjourned at 6:08 and a half.